All right, ladies and gentlemen, I'm just going to be testing the sound now. You should be able to hear me. I'm just going to wait and see how the chat reacts to whether or not the audio is fucked, and then we're going to get into the show. All right, ladies and gentlemen, I'm just going to be testing the sound now. You should be able to hear me. I'm just going to wait and see how the chat... There we go. Great. Fantastic. A little bit of feedback. And let's do it. Let's start. There is no intro because there is no Sam. A bit of bad news. Sam is in the sky again. He's in the sky, and he's flying to Sweden. I have no idea why he would do such a thing. And yes, the audio should sound better than normal because this is direct input going through my mixer instead of going through Skype with Sam. So you should get better audio. Anyway, yep, Sam is in the sky. He's gone to Sweden for DreamHack Winter. Apparently, he's doing a freelance gig out there. I'm loath to discuss the details of it. I don't even know who he's working for or what he's doing, but, that's Sam in a nutshell. But we did promise that we were going to keep this show daily, and so far we haven't really done that. So I wanted to use my spare time to, put something out there. And it's going to be difficult because I'm going to be pressing lots of buttons myself, and I've never done this before. So do bear with me. But without any further ado, thanks a lot for tuning in, and let's get into the show. So first thing is corrections. Obviously, it's very important that when you get things wrong, you correct them, because if you don't do that, then obviously you're as bad as all of the other media outlets that lie and present information fallaciously in a bid to, push your buttons and get you to do things. We made a mistake in our last show. We reported about an app called Equitable. Equitable, which was an app that made white people in a party pay a larger share based on some sort of idea of reparations for them being white. Now, this was actually a piece of satire, and a very good piece of satire too, because it did catch a few publications out. HuffPo reported on it, and we picked that up, and we reported on it as if it was genuine, and it is just a piece of satire. So we absolutely want to retract our report that this is a real thing. It certainly isn't. It's a great piece of comedy, one of the better ones I've seen in recent times. While people are talking about the SNL skit, The Bubble, this was actually really good. So just wanted to say, well done, the Equitable. You made fools of us all. But we here on the Richard Lewis Show, we don't mind admitting that we are indeed, we can be foolish sometime. So no problem there. Anyway, the other thing I wanted to do was, obviously, we get fan mail in response to the show, and we put out a piece about, we focused on a piece about Rocket League and Rocket League's great sexist problem. Now, of course, you and I know that there is no sexist problem in Rocket League. It's gibberish. They had an example of one, and clearly this was an example of one predicated on a personal relationship. So this writer basically leveraged his position to make a situation that doesn't exist appear as if it existed en masse, and there was a deep-seated issue in the community, basically to appease a friend of his, which of course is an abuse of journalistic power and privilege. But not a very big one, it must be said, because obviously it was a very small publication, by contrast to some of the other shit we've seen going on. Anyway, the people who watched the show, we did get a few responses. And I'm going to read you the best, and I won't give you the name. It's from a female gamer who wrote into the show. And I won't read her name because I don't have the permission to do that. I don't know if she'll mind or not, but I'd rather err on the side of caution, just in case. But anyway, she sent me this quite lengthy email. I'd like to read it to you all. Obviously, I'm a woman. I've been in gaming for, 12 years. I started out with playing some random games I got from a disc in my serial, then moved on to The Sims, and here we are. I peaked at DMG and CSGO once, but I moved on to play Overwatch, so I'm unranked now. I've had a rough past, and of course I won't go into details since a lot of social justice warriors like to dox me. And believe me, apparently I'm like the Hitler for women when I speak up that I'm not a victim and I get other women telling me I should kill myself and get raped because I'm bad. Ironic, right? I mostly get harassed by other women, but basically, TLDR, I know my shit. So the things the social justice warriors claim are total bullshit. I've written multiple rants on Reddit about it. Most games have zero or minimal sexism. Well, minus CSGO, it's good to know. There I've experienced real sexism, where multiple people have either yelled on me every time I try to give info where the enemy is because of my voice, or they've given away my position with stalking me and using their Glocks, or they've kicked me because I'm a woman, or I get spawn killed and I don't get any kills, and then I get kicked for being bad. It's easily fixable by playing with a friend. People won't pick on you if you have a friend there. But in Overwatch and literally any other game, I've not experienced it. I've not experienced any form of discrimination because I have a vagina. It's because the people who are asshats there are usually asshats towards everyone. Yeah, no shit. I played with some friends, and they've been called small-penised dickhead virgins when they have called me a loose vagina whore. It's not one-sided. It's two-sided, and these people don't realize it because they refuse to look at it from that way when it wouldn't be victimizing to them at that point. The tweet which Razor did is just the kind of tweet I expected from Razor. It's edgy, a joke appealing to teens, and this is referring in addition to the other story we picked up, and we did a separate video on this. This was Randy Harper picking up when Razor had tweeted out SMID as a form of advertising campaign, meaning they have an SD drive. And of course, this was an uproar, and social justice warriors bandwagoned the shit out of it. Polygon tried to lead the charge, calling it obscene, as if we were somehow living in the fucking, Victorian era again, which, by the way, is one of the most obscene eras in human history. But, and just to expand on that point, what do you mean by that, Richard? This was an era where women, to make ends meet, regularly had to prostitute themselves just as a matter of course. It was an era when we put people with deformities and medical problems in tents and cages and paid money to laugh at them. It was an era where a lot of sexual abuse was swept under the rug. The idea of, let's all go back to Victorian values is fucking disgusting to me. And a lot of social justice warriors seem to peddle this very bizarre, we want to be puritanical outwardly, but in our own private lives, we want to get up to all sorts of crazy, wacky shit, So the tweet which Razor did is just the kind of tweet I expected from Razor. It's edgy, a joke appealing to teens. It's not bad. Actually, I found it hilarious, but of course our blue-haired friend got offended by it. It's what I don't get. I tell my friends to suck my dick very often, even though, I don't have one. They don't find it offensive. They tell it to me, and I mostly answer with, okay, when? Or something else sarcastic. If a stranger starts raging and tells me to suck their dick, I answer with, sorry, Mom told me not to put small things in my mouth. I don't find it offensive at all. If Razor had tweeted rape all women, then yeah, it would have been different, but they joked. They didn't put anything harmful out. Their tweet wasn't sexist, which is super pissy too. People get shamed into silence. I've got doxed enough times by social justice warriors and people finding it funny to do so that I'm legit wondering why their behavior doesn't get punished, why the blackmail and shit they do flies under the radar. I used to be super left-leaning, but I can't stand being associated with people like that anymore. I don't want to. And the fun thing is that 90% are other women telling me I'm a whore who deserves to get raped and that no one would ever believe me if it happened. The 1% of men that has been like that has been under the spell of some girl, and it's why they've been pissy. Or then they have been male social justice warriors, but not gamers. In fact, most gamers outside of CSGO are quite nice and treat you equally as long as you don't bitch to them. I remember laying in the hospital bed with an IV drop in my hand, reading about Gamergate and reading threads when the whole ordeal first came out. It was bullshit. And I remember logging onto a website writing a whole, holy shit, this isn't fair about it. Seeing the media smear gamers, even if you're a gamer too, where your opinion gets silenced because it was harming the narrative was bullshit, and it still is bullshit. TLDR, I have a vagina. I don't find that tweet offensive. I don't get harassed. SMID. So, seriously, fucking big shout out to the individual who sent me this. And, honestly, I hear this a lot. I've talked to a lot of women in esports, a lot of women in gaming, and they always tell me that the harassment, the abuse comes from other women that don't feel they're showing solidarity for the feminist cause. That seems to be the greatest, root problem that they face. Certainly, I know from my time in esports and gaming, which is my entire life, by the way, I think it's one of the most welcoming subcultures out there, because you can check all your bullshit at the door. You can check all your baggage at the door. You can come in, be who you want to be. You don't need to be what society defines you as, which is fucking great, right? That's the great thing about it. How can you assign prejudice to people when they don't have to be who they are? They can completely rebuild themselves from the ground up. I'm not saying there aren't assholes out there. There definitely are. But the reality is you'll bond and make more friends, in gaming than I think you will in a lot of things, and without that weird, almost like machismo. I'm from a sporting background. I'll admit, we used to make a lot of jokes in locker rooms and in shower rooms. And when we were on tour and we used to do little obnoxious, male-centric things, you don't see that in gaming. I think gaming, people can universally bond. You don't need to, you don't need to have to align with this idea that people are being pushed down by some sort of patriarchal dominance in gaming. It's nonsense. So any male like that, if you want to share your experience with me, I'll certainly be reading them on the show. Just let me know. Right, so let's get into some bits, and then we're gonna do some other stuff. This is where it can all go wrong. I have to push buttons, so this is where it can all go wrong. So this is the first one I wanted to bring up. You can see here, this is a story that was on Australian Yahoo, and this is an issue for me. Stories like this, and I'll certainly tell you why. A transgender woman calls for a Domino's boycott after a driver calls her sir. And this is a woman called Tina Healy. And she has basically said that she wants to have the pizza company committed to gender sensitivity training on the basis that a driver intentionally and disparagingly referred to her by the male title, despite all indications she was a woman. I'm standing outside my door and there's a light on. My name's Tina is on the docket, Miss Healy wrote on the Facebook on Monday. The guy stopped, he looks me up and down a couple of times and stares for a moment, and then makes a decision to call me sir a couple of times, even after I clarified my name was Tina. Miss Healy said she normally shrugs off these matters, but the encounter, which happened on Transgender Remembrance Day, what a coincidence, hurt and made me feel ugly. The coordinator for Gender Diversity Australia said she contacted Domino's and got no response, while a post on the company Facebook page appeared to be wiped. And you can see there's a couple of tweets here. Hi, Tina, I'm so sorry about this. We can't seem to locate your email. Can you please send it back to us? And then you can say, hi there, could you please forward these details on me? So, Domino's have attempted to make some contact about it. She's trying to imply that they haven't. That Melbourne woman said she emailed Domino's following the incident, but the silence led to a call for a boycott of the company, posting a story on Facebook and Twitter with a hashtag boycott Domino's. The post has since been removed from Facebook, and Yahoo has contacted Miss Healy for comment. I'm waiting to hear from the senior management regarding training for their staff so that it doesn't happen to someone else, Miss Healy wrote. Domino's Twitter account made contact with Miss Healy on Monday. An apology was offered, but it was not enough to quell the ire of some. Domino's, you can see there's another tweet here from Tina, very impressed with the reply, full apology, and showed understanding of the issues for our community. So by Tuesday, it's all resolved, and they pledge to address the issue, and they are open to the possibility of a company called Gender contributing to the training process. Now, let's just talk about this. I'm not, I think there's a lot of people who get very, I don't understand it. I don't understand why people can have an issue with transgenderism, in this day and age. It's not anything that's ever bothered me. Obviously, I've had trans co-workers, I've got trans friends. It's not an issue. But here's what I will say. I think it gets very murky when, first of all, this individual, this pizza driver, we have no idea if this happened or not. I'm not saying I don't believe her. I'm just saying that, the way she describes it, there's a lot of details there, very specific. And the fact that it happens on transgender, a day dedicated to awareness of the transgender issue, I don't believe in coincidences. So I've got to say, the idea that the guy, basically looked her up and down, saw that her name was Tina, had her say that her name was Tina, and then he still made the decision to call her sir. I'm obviously a little bit dubious about that. I'm obviously a little bit skeptical. Okay? But here's the thing. First of all, I don't think we should ever conflate genuine accidents. I don't think we should ever conflate genuine accidents with hate speech. And I'm going to say this. Have you ever done this? Have you ever gone into a store and called somebody a guy? A woman, a guy just by accident. I mean, they're not trans. They are just legitimately a woman. It's not that they look like it. It's just a slip of the tongue. I did it the other day with an Uber driver. I was getting out of the car, and I call everybody brother. I think I like to be like, Hulk Hogan. I think I grew up with too much wrestling. And, I call everyone brother. Anyone who knows me knows this. Oh, you're all right, brother. How you doing, brother? I love you, brother. Take care, brother. I call all my nearest and dearest friends brother, and sometimes I get stuck in a brother loop, and I just say brother, 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 brother over and over and over again. So I got out this Uber the other night, and I'd had a few beers. I wasn't drunk, certainly, but I'd had a few drinks, and I'm getting out of the Uber, and obviously you're just like a little, you just got a little bit of a fog on, right? You got a little bit of a buzz on. And this lady who I had a wonderful conversation with, she was a resident of Atlanta for something like 37 years. She knew the city very well. She was teaching me some of the history. We had a great conversation. And then just at the end, I got out the car and I said, thanks a lot, brother. Now, obviously, I don't think she's a guy. I just fucked up. It was just an innocent slip of the tongue. And there's no way to, what do I do in that moment of awkwardness? Do I stick my head back in the car and go, sorry, mom, I didn't mean to call you brother. It was just, it's only going to exacerbate the issue. So what I did was I just thought, holy shit, maybe she didn't hear me. Maybe it was just mumbled. And she thought I was saying, thanks a lot, Uber driver. It obviously didn't. But, whatever, what I certainly wouldn't hope would happen is that she would make a phone call to Uber and say, I've just had this guy in my car and he called me brother. And he's obviously a sexist, transphobic piece of shit, and I want to find out who he is. And, next time I log into the app, I look down and, I can't use Uber anymore because I'm a piece of, because I'm a piece of shit. And obviously, if that happened to me, I'd be upset by it. I won't lie to you. I'd be upset by that because that's not a reflection of what happened. So I think that's important. Here's another thing as well, and this is a sensitive issue, okay? But if you ever know anyone in the trans community, they have this thing called passing, and I think this is. Look, there's some broader issues around here. So first of all, I just want to say that, I'm mega sensitive to this, right? So just hear me out, okay? I don't even like the word transgender. I think transgender, it implies when you're on the journey, right? If you're happy with where you are and you have now, are now able to identify the way you want to identify, that's the end of the journey. You are now what you want to be. So when you say, I'm a trans woman, I kind of feel that's almost, most trans people I know don't like the T word. They don't like it. They don't like it to be put out there. They don't like it as a label. They just want to be seen as the gender they identify as. Now, they have this thing called passing in the trans community, and it's when you are at a significant level of looking like the gender you wish to be, that you can pass, and sounding like the gender that you want to be. So you pass, and they call it passing. Now, not everyone passes, and that's a goddamn shame, but it's true. That you will see people, and unfortunately for them, or not unfortunately, look, I don't know. But what I'm trying to say is, you might be able to have an inkling that they may be a transgendered individual, and as a result, this is where the issue comes from. When people might get it wrong by accident, somebody might want to look like a man, for example, but they might be very clearly a woman, and you might call them mom by accident, and vice versa. So when that happens, when that genuine mistake happens, I don't think you should beat down the person making the mistake. I don't think that's very helpful to generating an understanding for the issues trans people go through. I don't think it's very helpful in generating sympathy to the trans community. And I think, if anything, what it's going to do is it adds to this culture of where people say, holy fucking shit. These people are coming after me. They want to come after my job. I made an honest mistake. So we've got to be clear about that, and look, it's a crazy fucking thing to me that there's people out there who just won't let people be who they want to be. I do not understand that at all. I do not understand that. I absolutely do not support, condone, advocate for all of this insane levels of speculation people have. Like, people just want the right to be abusive to someone because they're different. I don't support that. I don't endorse that. But what I will say is, you absolutely can't penalize somebody for making an honest mistake like that. And I'm not saying that's what happened in this instance, but certainly I know enough about people, right? Like, it's just more likely that it was an honest mistake, wasn't it? It's just more likely that it was an honest error in the middle of doing a job. I don't believe this pizza delivery guy genuinely hates trans people. It's just that, people who feel that way are such a tiny, psychotic minority. What are the chances of this guy being like that? So very strange story to start off the show, and just a bigger issue. I wanted to draw attention to. Now this is where it gets interesting, right? So I have to now put in the next story. Can he do it? Yes, he can. Okay, no, he can't. One side, that's Kroger, right? Okay. So this is just a story, just in case you were worried about some stereotypes, definitely being true. You can see here, this is in the LA Times. Blue-haired woman arrested for scrawling anti-Trump graffiti on government buildings, police say. And this was a story that you can see here. Police said Tuesday they had captured the blue-haired woman who scrawled anti-Donald Trump graffiti on 4 Los Angeles County buildings. Surveillance cameras film. I mean, she's the kind of woman there. I'm pretty sure she's going to see this report and say, "Did you assume my gender?" Surveillance cameras filmed the woman Sunday as she used a can of blue spray paint, probably the same she used to color her hair, to deface multiple walls in downtown LA with vulgarities about Trump and other writings about the president-elect, according to Deputy Kelvin Moody, a spokesman for the Los Angeles Department. The markings were found on the Hall of Justice, the Hall of Records, Clara Shortridge Foltz Criminal Justice Center, and the county central heating and refrigeration plant. Now let's just talk a little bit about this. It's an amusing story, but let's just get into this one. What is it about these people, that they're very bad at picking their targets? Here's the thing. If you want to make a protest about Trump, go to Trump Tower in New York. Go to one of Trump's businesses. Maybe even go to the White House itself. I don't advocate for vandalism. But, come up with a protest that doesn't lead to the damage of public property. But when you're picking your targets, let's just talk about this. The Hall of Justice, the Hall of Records, the Criminal Justice Center, and the Central Heating and Refrigeration Plant. I don't even know what that's going to do with anything, unless they cryogenically freeze Donald Trump between rallies, which would explain his high energy. These are public buildings that serve a purpose. These are public buildings that serve a purpose. And these public buildings, have to pay for any damage that are done to them out of their budgets, which, as we know, are already strained in these austere times. So what I don't understand is, what the thought process here is, because now these essential buildings that literally exist to serve their community, to serve people, they're done. They're off it goes. They've got to pay to have graffiti removed. Perhaps even for a president they didn't endorse anyway on the as part of the electoral college. So it's a bizarre choice. And as I said, it just shows that constantly we have all this attention drawn to anti-Trump people, allegedly doing these swastikas, which, we never catch a Trump person in the act. In fact, every time we do catch somebody, it's always a hoax, so far anyway. And this is another woman damaging public property because she's worried about how society will plummet now that Trump's in charge. Let me tell you how society goes wrong. It's when people disregard the rules to suit their own agenda and beliefs, which is exactly what you're doing. And right now, the only thing that's making America bad is the hysterical babies having tantrums across America. So just a cautionary tale there. And I think we can move on to the next story now. This is just a little one. So you guys should enjoy this. I know a lot of the youth are familiar with Harry Potter. I don't read Harry Potter books because I am a grown-up, and I'd much rather read actual books that nourish the mind. But there you go. And I'm sure a lot of you have seen the movies. This is the headline that J.K. Rowling, Trump is worse than Voldemort. Donald Trump is worse than the literary and cinematic villain who unsuccessfully tried to kill the boy who lived. That's according to J.K. Rowling, the British author of the Harry Potter book series. And I think, I think what I hate about this, this ridiculous, headline. I mean, first of all, I don't want to burst anyone's bubble here. Stay with me. I'm just going to come on camera for a moment. Voldemort isn't real. Okay? He's not real. Okay, let's go back. So, Voldemort isn't real. And the idea that he's worse than a fictitious character who is designed to be one of the most evil beings who's ever lived is a patently absurdist thing to do. And if I didn't know better, I would say that this is just another way to use the Trump phenomenon to generate headlines, generate articles, and, basically generate attention, right? That's what we do. That seems to be the pattern. That's the path, right? That's what we like to do. And it seems to me very, very absurd that you would, seize upon something while tensions are running high, and perhaps just to get your name out there and, sell some more books, you would kind of try and stoke the ire. And again, it's very strange. People seem to have forgotten about some of the other American presidents in history. Richard Nixon. Richard Nixon was a president who raised corruption. He raised that corruption bar. President Nixon was the president who said it's not illegal when the president does it. President Nixon used to bug people and actually did hire thugs to bully people. George Bush, he engaged in some very dubious practices, didn't he? I'm gonna wait and see what happens with Trump, but I find it very unlikely he's going to do far worse than George Bush. The guy who brought in the Patriot Act, the guy who used 9/11 as a excuse to go to a war, probably has rigged intelligence to do so, refused to cooperate with the 9/11 Commission because it would reveal ties to Saudi and the Bin Laden family, which the Bushes have had for years. I think he's a pretty bad president myself, and that's before we get into any other fucking crazy conspiracy theories. So, there you go. And no, I'm not like Immortal Technique. I don't think Bush knocked down the towers, which he seems to think. But anyway. So let's move on. Another ridiculous bit of nonsense there. So now, here's something I want to talk about. This is about me, and it is the Richard Lewis Show, and you're all watching. So let's get into it. Obviously, I won an award. I won Esports Journalist of the Year award, and very happy and honoured to have done that. Obviously, it was a public vote, and I've been critical and cynical and skeptical about public votes in the past for obvious reasons. Because they're bad. They're generally bad. They're popularity contests and not a measure of skill. But now that I've won one, I kind of like them. No, I'm just kidding. So, obviously, I did win the award. I'm very thankful for everyone who went and voted. You'll notice I didn't ask for votes. I didn't solicit votes at any point. So I take that as an even bigger accolade. Because you guys went out and did it of your own volition. You guys went and did it without any encouragement from me. So thank you very much. And obviously to all the other people who were nominated, there were mighty fine candidates, Jacob Wolf, Fiona on Fire, I think Thorin was nominated for that. It might be personality, I don't know. But we've got lots of good writers coming through in esports who I'm sure will have their day. This is my first award in 12, 13 years. So I've been nominated a bunch of times, never won anything. Now, you might remember when I was sitting on an esports panel, right? There was a person called Brianna Wu, and she said that I shouldn't be on an esports panel, despite my expertise in esports, because I used to write for Breitbart, and therefore I am a fascist. So, and that was the first time social justice warriors really had a good go at me. Now I'm back on their radar because I did a video about Razor and the Randy Harper debacle. And this happened. I won the award. And let's have a look. Let's have a look at some of these reactions, which I guess could be filed under reasonable. So here's the first. This is Twitter. You can see this is somebody mocking me. Esports Journalist of the Year. This is by Rins Giving Gear, or Rins Giving Ear, sorry. And she's took the one video I did, the Randy Harper versus Razor, social justice warriors get closer to esports. And you can see people are replying, obviously, because they sit in their echo chambers. There would be no one to challenge this. Oh my God, I'm dying, laughing my fucking ass off. It's like, why can't he just stick to the investigative part of journalism? He's great there, but then this stuff. So understand this is the idea, right? And I get this from a lot of people. Why don't you just investigate stuff constantly? Well, I guess I could do that, but then I wouldn't be able to do any other form of work. But forget that for a second. Let's say investigative journalism was easy. Let's say I could do it all the time, literally every waking moment, and just uncover all sorts of shit, right? And I think I've uncovered more than my fair share, perhaps more than any other journalist in the space. But they say, then this stuff. So what he means is, I'm not entitled to an opinion. And that's an opinion video. And you'll find this a lot with idiots. They can't understand the difference between reportage and editorial. They can't understand it. So when you have a job as a reporter and you report and then you want to write an opinion piece or record an opinion piece, again, in their brain, they think you are presenting facts rather than opinions. Now, it's got to be very self-evident that what happens in that video is, these are the facts, this is my opinion about those facts. Therefore, it is an opinion piece. But what they say is, you aren't entitled to an opinion. This happens all the time. This used to happen in League of Legends. Every time I wrote an op-ed or an opinion piece, it would end up on the front page, and a bunch of people would come in and go, wow, this is just like his opinion. This is nonsense. Why is he having an opinion? I don't even like this opinion. Why am I having an opinion? And it was just this hysteria, right? Just absolute hysteria, because they didn't understand that actually it's also a form of journalism, that people write opinion pieces. And it's the same with this. Recording a video about my opinions, about an industry I've worked in all of my adult life, it somehow is wrong of me. I shouldn't be allowed to do this. And you can see here, investigate. And he says, she says, sorry, who knows anymore? You mean getting handed documents and using Google search like they taught you in 8th grade? Now, obviously, anyone who knows, say, for example, let's just take one of the big stories I did, the match fixing. The match fixing issue involved a lot. It was checking phone chat logs, checking betting patterns, checking financial records, gathering testimony. It was from start to finish, it took 6 months. You couldn't do any of that with a Google search, and certainly in a match fixing investigation, nobody handed me anything. Nobody handed me shit because they don't want me to expose match fixing. So it didn't happen. And again, these are the people that feel they're entitled to have an opinion about journalism, and they don't understand it. And then Jacob Wolf obviously is in there, and he says, if that's truly what you think of investigative work in this field, then I'm a little baffled. And he says, she says again, it's more nuanced, of course, but there's no denying what sort of exclusive privileges he's been afforded. And no, not in the social justice sense this time. And I don't know what that means. I don't know what that means. I don't know what these privileges are. I work incredibly hard, very much to my detriment a lot of the time, because a lot of the big companies who would just pay me to shut up, literally pay me to shut up, by the way, they would employ me so I would stop doing this about them. I don't. It's to my detriment. I make less money doing this than I would if I just took money and towed the party line. So I don't know where this privilege comes from or what that is supposed to mean. But it didn't stop there. Obviously, that's just one random tweet. Then a fellow journalist, and obviously I use the term loosely, waded in as well, and again, responded to that video. A lot of people looking at my profile because I just won this award. And this is a chap called Will Parton. I don't know who he is. The name doesn't ring any bells. He says, Esports Journalist of the Year, an ex-Breitbart report. You see, once again, they focus in on the Breitbart thing. Made a video called Social Justice Warriors Get Closer to Esports. And he goes, bruh, I've been here since 2006. And I reply with, and what an impact you've made. Because I don't know who he is. Even Googling this guy, even Googling this guy brought up nothing, like no meaningful stories. And that isn't to be disparaging, but he just hasn't broken anything big or done anything major in 10 years. And, that's quite startling, right? And so obviously this guy used to work over at Evil Geniuses, of course, is very heavily invested in Dota 2, also, of course. And you can see here, no further comment, and on he goes, talking about, fan voted, always a dangerous proposition, other people wading in. Fan votes can't be held to a principle or guideline. And what should that principle or guideline be? Should it not just be that I did the work and the work was good and the work had an impact on the industry and and therefore I win the award on that basis. And then I should check my cis privilege. Maybe we need a new hashtag, always been here. That award shows seem kind of goofy, don't take it. Personally, and then you can see other people started wading in and basically point out this safe space gibberish is nonsense. And, again, I don't know what Will Parton wants. I'm not saying social justice warriors shouldn't be in esports, you'll notice. I mean, I don't even say that. I do say that we've got to be incredibly careful about them subverting esports and turning it into what they want it to be, which is basically non-stop virtue signaling, politically based bullshit, which has no place in esports as far as I can tell. And again, I've done more to actively promote diversity in my role that I've held. I've given jobs to women. I've given jobs to trans people. I've actively gone out there and recruited people, not based on background, but I've gone out there and looked at the diversity element to it and factored that in when thinking about recruitment, and people will attest to this. So does that make me a social justice warrior? Perhaps. I'm sure some of you will think, well, why are you doing that? Because I want diversity in esports, if for no other reason than it stops people beating us over the head about how we're not fucking diverse, which I think is a complete misrepresentation. So obviously I'm a bad human being. Then this was the next response, which, this is a guy who agrees with me, understand? So this guy even agrees with me, but still manages to be offensive and very weird in his response. This is a tweet. I disagree vehemently with a lot of Richard's political beliefs, but he was still the most revolutionary, exceptional journalist of the year. Well, first of all, I don't understand why we are in an award as to whether or not I'm the best journalist. Why are we talking about my political beliefs at all? But here's the other thing. Why are people assuming my political beliefs? Why is it you can't assume, genders, sexual preferences, whatever, but you can certainly assume a lot about a white man's politics? And I find this absolutely nonsense. And he replied and said, that he disagrees pretty strongly with everything I said here. Now, that links to an article I wrote on Breitbart called 5 Ways the Social Justice Movement Can Restore Credibility, which you'll understand isn't saying fuck social justice warriors. It's saying if you stop doing the following things, people will take you seriously. And, of course, everybody rejects that. They have to change. Social justice people don't believe they have to change. They think censorship is okay. They think language policing is okay. They think penalizing anyone with a different view is okay. And they think that their ideological outlook is the only one that matters. They believe on the right side of history. They believe in harassing people, harassing people because they deserve it. But if you harass them, you're bad. And harassment actually is tantamount to disagreement. So I've said, if you change all of that, people might engage with you politically, which is what I wanted. Understand, I wrote that well in advance. That's 2015. That's before all of the Trumpism. Had people listened to that, maybe Trump doesn't win the election. So again, I find it very bizarre how somebody could disagree with things like stating facts. Like if you stop censoring people, people will want to engage with you more. If you engage with the ideas, we can find a middle ground. We can find a consensus. But again, it's insane. It is insane that my political views are being discussed for winning an award, which has nothing to do with my political views. And keep in mind as well, I have never publicly stated what my political views are. There's not like some Richard Lewis manifesto out there, an 88-page diatribe about the things I believe or don't believe. I weighed in politically on the issues. I was and again, people are calling me a Trump supporter just because I said I wouldn't vote for Hillary and that I would vote for Trump before Hillary. Even though I don't have the right to vote, so it's moot anyway. If it makes anyone feel any better, I was all for Obama getting in. Again, also didn't have the right to vote, didn't have any influence in that election whatsoever. So I don't know why we have to talk about my political beliefs, because to me, I'm very liberal, but the one thing that annoys me is censorship, and obviously it's not the right that are doing that. It's the left now. I don't like language policing. It's the left that are doing that. So I had to pick a side, not because I wanted to necessarily align with all of Breitbart's views, but let's just be clear. Breitbart gets this ridiculous rap for being a hotbed of hate speech and racism and all of this. And I never saw any of that. You have to understand that. When I was at the Daily Dot, did I see lots of propaganda? Did I see journalists deliberately skewing reports to suit their ideological basis? Did I see editors declining to write up facts to stories we had covered at the beginning? And when new facts became available, because those facts challenged what they'd originally written, they refused to publish them. Did I see that on the left? Yes, I did. Did I see that at Breitbart? Absolutely not. So I only worked in a tech section. But I got to say, the idea that everyone over there is some white power, Nazi is nonsense. It's absolute nonsense. And you have to understand that when people throw that smear out there, they're smearing a lot of friends and people I hold in high regard. And I can't allow that because there's no basis for it. There's never any evidence. It's like just Breitbart's just become another word that's meaningless. It's like Nazi. It's like when you call, everyone's a Nazi. He disagrees. He's a Nazi. He's a literal Nazi. He's an actual Nazi. He's not a Nazi, though, is he? There's a very special set of criteria to meet being a Nazi. And very rarely when that word is thrown out do the people that it's being applied to actually meet it. And again, this is dangerous because it diminishes our ability to actually challenge real people, real white supremacists, real dangerous, awful people. And the left's got to stop crying wolf. So again, it doesn't end there though, guys. I wish it did. I really wish it had. Because obviously my personal politics are so important. It has driven one person insane, literally insane. I blocked this guy a while ago. Because he was just blabbing on about, my views and how they're important. This is a guy who actually coaches in Dota. So this is a guy who's reasonably high up the food chain. And he sits glued to Twitter, so we have to go through this a while. But let's just scroll right down. And what you'll see is he says I shouldn't win the award because it sets a bad message. And by awarding me Best Journalist of the Year, the awards panel has basically endorsed all of my politics, whatever they may be. He assumes my personal politics are somehow racist. And you can see here, he actually compares me to Hitler. Brian Heron said, I think it's a dangerous path to walk down, refusing to give someone an award based on their personal politics. And this is a common thing. Think about Lovecraft. Yes, Lovecraft did write a ridiculous racist poem and slipped in racism into some of his works. Do I condone that? No. I think it's deplorable. Do I think Lovecraft is a fucking boss writer? Yes. I don't want Lovecraft's books to be burned because he said a bunch of shit that I disagree with and think is grotesque. I want to take the high art, if that's okay with you. But regardless, I'm being compared to Hitler here. Look, I think it's trickier than that. Should Hitler win an award for the massive infrastructural improvements he made to Germany? How am I even comparable to Hitler? I don't understand it. I don't understand what I've did it. And you can say then later on, he goes, didn't liken him to Hitler. You literally compared me winning an award to Hitler winning an award. That's what we call in the business a comparison. You have compared me to Hitler. And I have no idea why. I have never said anything racist. I haven't said anything white supremacist. I don't advocate for rounding people up and putting them in camps. I certainly don't believe in eugenics or this is an absurd accusation. It's an absurd accusation. And of course, I have no grounds for recourse or defense. I can't report him to Twitter because this is well within Twitter's allowances. It's okay for leftists to call anybody who disagrees with them Nazis and Hitler and everything else. But if I was to call him a lunatic, a social justice warrior, a regressive moron, I'd probably be banned if I actually engaged in that kind of attack. So you can see here, he says the industry has social responsibilities. And it goes on. I think it's a big mistake to see morality as some separate, independent thing outside of a given industry and not interlinked. And then it says, leading decision makers in the industry should deliberately not try to make it a better place? ? Seems bizarre. So again, not giving me the award. Think about all of the positive impact my work has had on journalism. Not giving me the award would make the industry a better place. And then I think there's another one here. Let me just see. There was no. I mean, there's a lot of tweets. As I said, the guy is glued to it. So he likes to debate this stuff. There you go. I would have been satisfied giving him a nomination to show respect for his work, but he shouldn't get the award as condemnation of his behavior. Now, I don't know what that behavior is. If anyone can tell me what that behavior is, what I deserve to be penalized for, I'd like to know. I would like to know because it makes no sense to me. And on it goes. If winners can spread their own agendas, then deciding on a winner is deciding on an agenda. What agenda have I spread? I didn't use my acceptance speech as a platform to campaign for my views. I simply said in it, it's been a terrible year for journalism. It's great that there's an award out there that's going to recognize, doing great journalism in our space. I think it's very important. And what's more important than the award is that everyone in the room listening to this speech right now despises me. That is a bigger badge of honor because it means I'm doing my job correctly. And then I made a joke that I'm going to win it next year. And that was it. That was my speech. Since then, I don't know what agenda I've spread. It's very, very bizarre. Anyway, it goes on. See, I think there's a difference between acknowledging his work and giving him a public award for it. If a committee knows that an individual who wins furthers their agenda, and it's just a bunch of like nonsensical statements that he's thrown into his mind. He's just asserting things as fact when they cannot be asserted as fact. Again, a nomination could show respect for work while not giving the actual award, which shows responsibility and understanding the social implications. So this guy literally advocates for having personal politics enter into meritocracy. I imagine you shouldn't employ Trump supporters in his mind. People who are on the wrong side aren't entitled to jobs, to make money, to earn a living. They should be driven out of whatever industry they're in. And it goes on and on and on and on and on and on. And, I won't bore you with it, but you can see right here, this guy literally just hasn't stopped. My view is that a guy like RL would struggle to win an award if the team was as diverse as you're hoping. And this was the idea that if the people deciding the award were diverse, everyone who's diverse would hate me. Every person of color would hate me. Every woman would hate me. Every transgender person would hate me. Everyone who isn't a white male would hate me specifically, and therefore decide not to give me an award. Which, of course, is gibberish. And then he even says here that my bad behavior has compromised my journalistic integrity. Being a good journalist isn't just about being the most badass investigator breaking all the big scoops. And then this, again, really shows his lack of understanding about the craft. Being a good journalist isn't just about being the most... Oh, sorry. And besides, for all we know, his big break's a result of his gigantic network, which doesn't make him a better journalist. Well, anyone who works as a journalist, anyone who's had a job at a real publication, having that gigantic network takes years to acquire. Source management is one of the hardest things to do in journalism. It's certainly a lot harder than writing the copy. And yes, it does make me a better journalist. It makes anyone who has that source network a better journalist. You wouldn't employ a political writer. Okay, let's say you've got two political writers going for a job. You have a political writer who is new and is just a glorified blogger and does lots of virtue signaling articles. Or you have a bit of an old, grizzled, maybe a little bit anachronistic in his worldview writer who literally has connections to everyone in every level of government, low-level employees, right the way up to the top, actual senators and that kind of thing. Who do you employ for the job if you want to get good political writing? It's obviously option B. So the idea that having a gigantic network doesn't make you a better journalist, that absolutely does. To have that is in itself a skill. And then just to end, in case you didn't realize what his agenda was, homophobic slurs in Dota 2, why our community needs to do better. The big issue, the hot topic, right? The hot topic, virtue signaling to the max. So there you have it. Anyway, so that's my award. Again, I thank you all for supporting it. There is actually a movement underway right now to try and have me stripped of it, which is incredible, really. That anyone would bother with that. Let's have a look at this. This is just a quick thing. I have no idea if this is going to work because I'm an idiot. But Anita Sarkeesian is back. And she's back with a video.
Over the past week, women, people of color, trans and queer folks, and many others across the U.S. have been targeted in over 400 reported acts of aggression and hate. This is unacceptable. Feminist Frequency is founded on the belief that media matters and that there's a very real connection between the representations and values embedded in our popular media and the abuses we're currently seeing throughout the country. Last week, I posted a video responding to the election results and reminding us all that we have to call out and address sexism, racism, and all forms of bigotry, especially as they pervade mass media. That's what Feminist Frequency does, and our work is critical right now. We've heard from you that, like us, you're feeling grief and helplessness and rage and are looking for ways to actively combat this hate. So throughout the month of December, we'll be sharing ways that you can plug in and get involved in the struggle right now and for years ahead. Because of your enthusiastic belief in our work, Feminist Frequency has achieved so much over the past 4 years, but we still need your help. Your contribution at this crucial time ensures that we can keep progressing over the next 4 years. Your donation today can help us continue to do this vital work. Let's support each other by challenging unjust representations of individuals and groups and by standing up against hatred and harassment in our communities.
So there you have it. Now let's just break this video down. A lot of people getting triggered, so I'll come back on the screen. Let's just break this down, right, guys? Obviously, Anita Sarkeesian, you'll know her. She did the Tropes versus Women series. A very popular figure of ire, from lots of sections of gaming. A lot of people feel what she's done is, basically, how shall I frame it? Create a narrative, a very selective narrative about gaming and games that not a lot of people agree with. And, she's made a lot of money for peddling this narrative. She's been supported by high-ranking games journalists. Now, everyone who knows Anita Sarkeesian, I'm not going to go into it here, they all know she was a trained telemarketer. She's videos of that out there. For me, she is a figurehead. I don't even really dislike her, to be honest, because I think people are just putting words in her mouth and using her. She's got that look. She's very presentable. She's a good public speaker. So it makes sense that people would want to use her specifically, right? So, and obviously, we all know about Macintosh and blah, blah, blah. So let's just move on. She looked incredibly bored in her last few videos. I don't know if you guys agree. I saw a lot of videos that she did. She looked fucking so incredibly bored. Like, she just didn't want to fucking be there. It was pretty wild. And, I kind of felt sympathetic for her. This is going to make me deeply unpopular. But I just looked into her dead fucking eyes as the shit came tumbling out of her mouth once again, and you can see she didn't really believe it, and she knew it was cherry-picked, and she knew people were going to tear it down, and that intellectually it had no basis, that people were going to say, look, Anita, come and debate me publicly, I'll pay money to charity, and she was going to ignore it, and all of that rigmarole. And you could just see that she has lost the fucking fire, And I get that, right? Because it's boring. Not only are you out there banging a drum for a fucking cause that's ridiculous, you're banging the drum for a fucking cause that you don't even necessarily believe in. I don't believe she believes in that. I don't believe she's passionate about making gaming a better place. Fuck, I've seen the videos of her where she says, hey, I'm not a gamer. I had to do a bunch of research for this shit. So I feel sorry for her because she is now locked in to this line of work. And she will always be this figurehead. She will always have to have these views. She will always have to present this outward public. It's like the golden handcuffs, She's trapped now because it's lucrative. But the Trump election results have re-energized her because now she doesn't just have to go into the gamers and try and, that vein was a little tapped out, actually. There was nothing there, like the prospectors were panning for gold, and they're like, shit, man, everyone with blue hair is giving you money on Patreon. They've all donated. A lot of them are going away from it because, the crash override network leaks proved that actually we might be on the wrong side, and the money's getting low. We need to find the next piece of hysteria. What could it be? And then the Trump election results happened, and I swear, immediately Anita Sarkeesian video was out there, and she looks energized again, like, oh my God, Trump's going to kill all the brown people, he's going to kill disabled people, he's going to kill trans people. I mean, completely unsubstantiated gibberish. We need to stand, we need to fight. She did a rallying video the day after the election saying feminist frequency hasn't gone anywhere. I still think they haven't even met all of their fucking goals from their, original Kickstarter. But, we haven't gone anywhere. We're still here. And we're gonna fight, and we're gonna stand up, and we're gonna fight for this. And then they put this new video out again, talking about the problems. And what does it come with? The fucking fish. Come on, little fishies, woo! Donations. Give me donations, and we can continue to do our vital work. What is their vital work? Does anyone know what feminist frequency actually does? Does anyone know what feminist frequency has actually fucking achieved? Does anyone know what it's done on a political basis? You had those talks with the fucking UN? Is that it? Is that it? Is that the sum total? I don't know. But certainly, I do know that this is just another ploy for fucking money. And this is what I mean when I say, even though we've got the bigger numbers, right? I know it doesn't look like it sometimes, but common sense people are in the fucking majority. People who've had enough of this nonsense of political correctness and all that bullshit, they are in the majority. We are in the majority. Well, we're all worried about getting shamed, so not everyone could come out and wave their flag. And, I used to be quiet and just watch it all pan out. And, I used to be for political correctness. If I'd seen it become this, if I knew what was coming, I would never have gone for that. I always thought political correctness was a fair compromise. That if you can't trust people to be sensitive and decent to other people, maybe, just maybe, we need a little bit of, some rules, some normalization to give them a push. If I'd known it was going to go to this extreme, I'd have opposed it right at the start. I used to laugh at all those journalists that would be like, oh, this is political correctness gone mad. Yeah. They're going to tell us what to do now and ban Christmas. You're fucking idiots. You're idiots. But actually, they were right. They weren't right because they knew they were going to be right. They were just right by accident, but they were right. So, anyway, this is the banging, the fucking drum. Boom, 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 boom. We want your money. We want your money. And this is why it's lucrative, even though we're in the majority, because people will literally give fucking cash, just hand over fist, to protect them from something that doesn't exist, that didn't happen. And this is the key thing here. We always talk about the right and their fear-mongering tactics. Nah, dude, come on. I ain't even on the right. But I'll tell you where, I like to think I'm maybe just right of center, But, let me tell you where all the fear-mongering tactics are coming from. It's from the left. It's the left that are telling you that gays are going to get killed by Trump. Motherfucker's waving a rainbow flag in public, but he hates gays, apparently. He's going to kill all the trans people. Came out in support of Caitlyn Jenner. Came out in support of the bathroom laws. But now he's going to kill all trans people. He's going to take away the rights of gays to marry. Actually came out and said in an interview publicly that, there's no need to even have a discussion about same-sex marriage anymore because it's been legalized, and that is it, as far as he's concerned. It's the end of the debate. But no, right? So they're fear-mongering. They're just completely lying, and this is what happens when people are scared. They want to give up money. They want to give up money. This is what advertising does, right? This is advertising. This is ideological advertising. What advertising does is it tells you there's something out there that's going to fuck you up, and they're peddling the fucking cure. They're peddling the one thing that's going to keep this bad thing from happening to you. And it could be on a low level, right? Bad breath. It can be something like that, right? Bad breath. Oh my God. They'll show that advert where you go in to the office and the advert will be something like this. Just had a cup of coffee, talking to your coworker, and you lean in and the woman, the attractive woman will be, oh God, no, his breath. Why not take? Da-da-da. And then some fucking bullshit, fucking product name. Moutharon or something, right? And they tell you, be scared of this because this will make you a social pariah. This will mean you'll never have sex. That's the implication, right? You'll be, you might even stop you getting that promotion. It's really embarrassing. You should be ashamed. But if you just pay some money, we can cure you. You can get fucking Moutharon and it'll never happen to you. So that's the advertising premise. And it works. It works across the board. It can start with bad breath, but it can go further up, burglar alarms, whatever it is, right? Security, insurance, healthcare, right? You ever sat and watched daytime TV? It is just like a fucking bombardment. They may as well just play a video that says, you are going to die poor. That may as well be the advert for daytime TV. I said it, obviously, sometimes I don't work through the day, right? I do a lot of my work at night. I sit at home, and I just put on, what's happening on the TV today? And it's just do you have health insurance? Yeah. Do you have the right kind of health insurance? I don't know. What if you got sick right now? What if you got cancer right now? What if I do? Fuck, maybe I do. Shit, I eat garbage. I'm overweight. I'm an alcoholic. Whoa, God, what if I do have cancer? What would happen to your loved ones if you would have died? I don't even have any loved ones. What about your parents? They'd have to pay for your funeral. You've got no money in the bank, do you, Richard? How do you know my name? And you just fucking start spinning out, right? It literally just bombards you. You are going to die poor, and people just start fucking oh God, save me. Save me from this. Save me from this fucking shit. Save me from this shit. So this is what they're doing. They're taking advertising techniques. And they are using them to fuck with you on an ideological basis. They are fucking you on. They are literally advertising the right ideology. And if you pay money and show you're part of it, that's your card. That keeps the fucking wolf from the gates. That keeps them coming for you, right? Because as long as you're paying us the money, we know you're on our side. We know you're on our team, right? That's what they're doing. So it's not a surprise they're all back. They're going to go big. Anita Sarkeesian is going to try and enter into the sphere of politics. You watch, she'll start doing political videos. And they'll be complete nonsense, complete bullshit. And there'll be a Kickstarter and a GoFundMe and a Patreon and everything else. They're going to come out and they're going to try and muddy the political waters even more muddy than they already are. And do you know what's fucked up? With all of the friends that she's got in the media, that's happening. And again, remember, it's not her. She just represents a particular subset of people, but she will be the mouthpiece. Like that, I don't know if you ever actually read the books, Lord of the Rings. No, and all of the other supporting books, which were just hundreds, because Tolkien just sat in a room just making shit up all day, smoking weed, probably. You know about the Mouth of Sauron, right? The Mouth of Sauron. He's in the extended edition of fucking the last Lord of the Rings movie. It's that cunt who comes out with a helmet and the massive teeth, right? Well, basically, in the stories, he was like such a persuasive speaker. He went out to all the human tribes, right? The tribes of men and the tribes of orcs, and he would be like, so then, what do you need to join the cause of Sauron? Oh, what's Sauron going to offer us? Complete annihilation. He will take over the world and destroy everything. Yeah, sounds good. I'm in, right? Like, so that was his job, and that's what he did. And, this is what Anita Sarkeesian's going to be like. She's the appealing face of signing up to something that's completely fucking ridiculous. And people are going to pay her money for the privilege of basically going out there and lying, which is very alarming. So I did want to draw your attention to that. And the motherfucker does get his head chopped off. You're absolutely right. And good thing, too. Fuck the Mouth of Sauron. Right. Can we talk about this Hamilton situation? Can we talk about that? Shall we talk about that? Definitely want to talk about that. Let's do it. Okay. So, Hamilton. Now, I have bad memories about fucking Hamilton. When I was out, again, I won't name names, I was staying somewhere in America before I became the all-conquering esports force that I am now. And there was a friend that I was staying with, and they played it all the fucking time, dude. They played it all the fucking time. And, dude, it was, God, I just fucking hate that musical. I just hate it. I just fucking hate it, So, let's get into this. Let's see if I can actually make this work. I've been doing pretty good so far, haven't I, guys? This isn't bad. Maybe Sam doesn't get to come back. Who knows? Of course, the show isn't the same without just interrupting, going, "You're mentally ill," or whatever. So, let's just have a look here. So this is what happened. For those who missed it, I'm pretty sure you didn't miss it. This is the story about the cast of Hamilton. Mike Pence decided he'd go and, enjoy his vice presidency by taking his family to the musical Hamilton, which of course is, based on the history, blah, 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 of America. And it's got a musical cast, the majority of whom, if I remember correctly, if not entirely, are people of color. And he's having a sit down and wanting to chill out. I mean, he's already been booed coming into the theater because people got wind of it, because there was his motorcade outside. And this cast of Hamilton decided that they wanted to lecture Mike Pence. So in the middle of the show, they stopped the show. And I just want you to think about how fucking obnoxious this is, by the way. Because I hate this. I hate when, let's be clear. There's definitely a place for artists and people in our society to express opinions, political opinions, their beliefs, to rally for causes, to raise awareness. I'm all for that. But if I'd paid to see the show Hamilton on that night, and in the show, they stopped and started lecturing the vice president, who was also in attendance, I'd be thinking, why the fuck have I paid this money again? And these are expensive tickets, by the way. So he's having a sit down. He's there with his kids. And they stop and basically say to him, this is the lead actor, Brandon Victor Dixon, says, "We are the diverse America who are alarmed and anxious. And he did it, to be fair, he did it in his wonderful, he has got a great voice. He did it in this wonderful, oratory style. So it's like, we are the diverse America who are alarmed and anxious that your new administration will not protect us, our friends, our children, our parents, or defend us and uphold our inalienable rights. He goes on to say, but we truly hope that this show has inspired you to uphold our American values and to work on behalf, and then he stressed this part, to work on behalf of all of us. And he did it like that, with a nice little flourish at the end, and obviously a great actor. But I say with a great voice. I got and like I say, there were boos aimed at him. And, and obviously Mike Pence is now leaving because, they did this right at the end of the show. And it's just like, come on. Like, really? Again, what is the basis for saying this? What is the basis? Why do we feel that Trump and Pence hate black people? Why do we feel that way? I don't think there's any proof for it. Certainly, Pence has said some strange things about homosexuals. He seems to think that they need to be cured. I definitely don't agree with that. And I think that's ridiculous. But you will find a lot of politicians, certainly even Democratic ones, have said things like that. And, of course, it always gets forgotten about. Hillary Clinton opposed same-sex marriage for over a decade, a point very rarely brought up these days. So there's a lot of homophobes out there. It's almost as if it was some sort of weird fucking generational hang-up. And we're thankfully losing it now. So anyway, on it goes, and you can see that he did get called out on this, and I thought, how grotesque. But then something happened, and I thought it actually had the opposite effect than what was intended, because Hamilton wanted to draw attention, obviously, to their show, but obviously to the issues that they felt with politically, kind of like Colin Kaepernick taking the knee in the football games. And this happened. So this was the Washington Post. Pence went and did an interview, and I got to say, I thought he handled it incredibly. And actually, a lot of people ended up having respect for Pence because of what he said. And I'm just going to try and play that now. Hopefully it works.
What I can tell you is I wasn't offended by what was said. I'll leave to others whether it was the appropriate venue to say it. But I want to assure people who were disappointed in the election results, people who are feeling anxious about this time in the life of our nation, that President-elect Donald Trump meant exactly what he said on election night, that he is going to be the president of all the people of the United States of America. And to see this man who's bringing this energy and this leadership to the process of assembling this team and laying out an agenda to revive our country and strengthen America at home and abroad, is to see someone who is not only a great mind, but a great heart. He's got a heart for the American people. And I just want to reassure anyone, including the actor who spoke that night, that President-elect Donald Trump is going to be president of all the people, and I couldn't be more honored to stand with him.
Right, so there you go. He took it very well. He said he didn't think an apology was necessary. The best line, which they missed out of the video, which you'll see here in the report, was when the kids, his own children, obviously, and think about it, you're a child, you're out there with your father, and people are booing your father in public, I mean, it must be very disconcerting for a kid. And Mike Pence said, and again, this might be didn't happen because it's almost too perfect, but what a wonderful statement to make regardless of its veracity or not. He said, I nudged my kids and I reminded them that's what freedom sounds like. That this is what makes America great, to have that free speech. Now, that quote, to me, has just, it's like it's put Pence over the top, hasn't it? It's given him, it's actually made him look like a credible politician. It's actually made him look like an adult. That he walked into the lion's den, he got fucking booed. His children were there, and he just said, "This is it. This is what it's like. Those people have the right to do that." And that's made all of these people who wanted to kind of sling shit at him very silly indeed. So it did almost have the reverse effect. Now, let's just move on to this bit. All right, which this is where it starts getting fucking interesting. Because I always talk about this, right? Look, I understand what a straw man is. I understand when you do an ad hominem and you ignore the arguments in favor of personal insults. But here's the thing, right? If this actor who gave this speech was genuinely interested in protecting everybody in society like he said it was, you would imagine that genuine concern would spill over into his everyday life, right? Like, for example, when, if somebody isn't out there virtue signaling but says, look, I'm very passionate about, child protection, and then you found out the next day they were a child murderer or something, that'd confuse you, right? Because how can you say one thing and then be the other? So I don't think that necessarily invalidates a solid argument, but it does make you beg the question whether or not these people should be raising it. So look, here's what happened. This is the Daily Mail report, but it was picked up by a few outlets, not as many as it should have been, of course, as we all know. And again, a lot of people have said, oh, Richard champions all these right-wing publications. I don't. I think the Daily Mail is a appalling newspaper, but in our times, where, unfortunately for us, the media has become completely biased, not completely, but overwhelmingly biased to one side, is actually raised the stock of the Daily Mail. It's raised the stock of people like Sean Hannity, who literally weren't even in the journalistic conversation 8 years ago. So here you go. Shocking, racially charged Twitter history of the Hamilton actor who delivered controversial message to Vice President-elect Mike Pence. This is, again, Brand Victor Dixon, who plays Aaron Burr. And you're going to see. So this one, I don't really mind it so much here. It's perhaps maybe arguably irresponsible for someone in the public eye to say more good than bad. Until I see legions of good cops in the street holding the bad cops accountable, they're all complicit. # you're the problem. And, I think a lot of people feel this way. I think they look at the, police in America, which I agree. I think they're out of control. I don't think it's racial. I think they're out of control in just how they treat civilians. I think, standards and practices, assets forfeiture, the amount of shootings, the use of lethal force. I think all of these things have certainly made the police force look incredibly bad and perhaps rightly so. But again, I would say, I have to believe the majority of police are there to serve their communities and to do good work. So the idea that good cops, good police are complicit with the actions of bad police is I think that's quite a leap. And I've got to say, if we look at the way whistleblowers are treated, then perhaps we need to look further up the food chain. A lot of police who do come out and speak out against corruption, they don't have a great time of it. They don't have a good end. So then he also said here, and of course these tweets, this tweet was in 2012, so it's a while ago, and I almost feel, if you tweet things years ago and then enter public life, maybe it's a bit unfair to dredge up those tweets. But again, we're talking about something ideological here. So he says here, St. Paddy's Day, obviously that's St. Patrick's Day, weekend is like Christmas for black dudes who like white chicks. Happy holidays, boys. Season's greetings. And I guess what the implication here is that because it's St. Patrick's Day and in America everyone goes out and gets drunk, if you're a black man and you want to have sex with a white woman, this is the easiest time to do it because their inhibitions are reduced. Now, in our current in our current climate, let's be clear, we're evolving, we're adapting, we are becoming more sensitive to certain things. 20 years ago, I think, the idea of a woman getting drunk and having her inhibitions reduced and you having sex with her would probably be across society considered fair game. Obviously, these days, it does raise questions of whether or not it was date rape, whether or not people can consent to sex while inebriated. Now, obviously, I think if two people are inebriated and have sex, I think it's ridiculous to say, well, only one can consent and the other actually has no say in it. I don't support that outlook at all. I think that's patently absurd. But the idea of preying on drunk women for your sexual purposes certainly isn't very palatable, especially from somebody who said that they want they want people to be protected across the board. And again, I will just read the exact quote again. So it was we hope that this show has inspired you to uphold our American values and to work on behalf of all of us, defend us, protect us, and uphold our inalienable rights. Well, certainly, if you have sex with a woman while she's inebriated, I don't think necessarily you're protecting her or upholding her inalienable rights, but apparently it's okay if you're an actor. So there you go. And this was perhaps the one where it got the most attention. You can see this isn't something he said, but he didn't just retweet it. He described it as the best and therefore endorsed it. This was in 2013. And this was someone saying, for every racist comment I get about Trayvon, I'm going to turn one white married suburban housewife and mother into a jump-off. And you can see Brandon Victor Dixon loves this. He thinks this is hilarious. He thinks this is brilliant. Now, what's a jump-off? I had to maybe look this up. I'm not as street as I used to be, guys. So just so you know, a jump-off is a one-time sexual partner you pay no particular mind to, that you do not, care about long-term. In other words, you have sex with them and then you jump off, and that's the end of that. So basically what this person here is advocating for is, like just having sex with a white woman to kind of break up their household, and to treat them with no respect and use them just as a sex object, which of course is sexist, it's misogynistic. So endorsing this outlook is a very difficult thing to do while you're talking while you're talking about protecting everybody's rights and whatnot. So there's probably other stuff on there, and I guess what Mr. Dixon will have learned now is that if you're going to speak in public and become a public person, people are going to dig into your past and hold you accountable for things you've said. And I obviously have my views about whether or not that's fair to do, but I think we can all agree this is hypocrisy. Now, actually, hang on. I almost forgot to get this for you guys. So let me just find this. I think this is important. So, yeah, here we are. Obviously, in the aftermath of this, there was a lot of feeling from the right and from Trump supporters. Trump himself certainly didn't help because he tweeted that an apology was due, something Mike Pence himself refuted and didn't care about or care for or want or request. But then a lot of celebrities came out, and what they did was they basically started mocking the people who were calling to boycott Hamilton. And it's true. I mean, this is a sold-out show. It's idiotic. You can't boycott it because you can't buy the tickets in the first place. And you can see there was tweets coming in. This is Francesca Ramsey. How are you going to boycott Hamilton when you can't afford tickets in the first place? Boycott Hamilton? First of all, you had no intention of singing a musical with black people, and more importantly, you can't afford the tickets. And there was others. Patton Oswalt, for example, came out and did this. And there's a few people who made this joke. And it's interesting, isn't it? Because these people, these celebrities, they operate on this idea that we have privilege. The working class, blue collar, white folk have some privilege that just, we can't get rid of it. We want to. We don't want to have this privilege. But unfortunately, we've got it, and we've got it in spades. We can't do anything about it. We've just got privilege, privilege, privilege. Yet these people have no issue with mocking the poor and pointing out their own status and their own privilege and their own wealth, which apparently has come from a society that is prejudiced towards them and puts them down. So you tell me if there's any cognitive dissonance going on there, because I certainly think there is. Now, and people can say, oh, those are just jokes. Yes, like Trump's never made a joke and been held accountable for it as if it was mandate and political legislation. Yeah, okay. I guess one rule is good for one and not the other, right, guys? So, and just to show that I am, pointing out the flaws in both sides of the argument, I thought the boycotts were absurd for the reasons I just said, and also this happened. Donald Trump fans bashed the wrong Hamilton Theatre over Broadway cast address to Pence, so they even got the wrong Hamilton. There's a place called Hamilton, and they were attacking the theatre in Hamilton, not the Broadway theatre that shows Hamilton. So a little bit embarrassing there. Guys, if you're going to target people on social media to make your distaste known, helps if you get the right one. Definitely helps if you get the right one. Now, we're going to get a bit serious here. Because a lot of people say, Richard, your show is biased. You don't talk about everything equally. This is proof that you've been somehow bought out or taken over by the right. You're a Breitbart mouthpiece, whatever it is people want to allege. And all of these allegations are the root cause of why you see stuff like people wanting to take my awards away, take my status away, take my platform away, because I'm trying to speak out against what I see as patent nonsense. Now, the Atlantic ran this story. This was footage from a speech by a chap called Richard Spencer. And yeah, it's right. Let's start here. I find Richard Spencer just an appalling figure, and he's everything that I've talked about that's actually wrong with the rise of what people are calling the alt-right. This is why I don't want people to embrace this term alt-right, because it's not real. It means something different to everybody that uses it. And some people think the alt-right means like a neoconservative but young. Some people think the alt-right is about being conservative but breaking away from the kind of old guard, and we're anti-establishment conservatives, so there's just nowhere else to pigeonhole us. Increasingly, the media are using the term alt-right to mean white supremacists. And this is why I said right at the start, when alt-right became a thing, never call yourself alt-right. People call me alt-right. I am not alt-right. I disavow the alt-right. I think it's stupid. I think it's a stupid term. I think anyone who uses that term to describe themselves is an idiot, purely and simply because whatever they think it means in their head, you are going to be discredited for being part of this movement. Because it isn't a movement. It's a bunch of people using a loose, nebulous term to try and come together. So, I want to speak just to Richard Spencer. Obviously, I do not support his views at all. I feel he's one of the worst things that could have happened to this kind of political discourse, because he is using the rise of Trump, the rise of the alt-right. He is using it to basically infuse Naziist rhetoric into the discourse. Now, he's a very small part of it. I still think he's entitled to his views. I don't think he should be deplatformed, but certainly I do not agree with the things he says. I do not believe in ethno-states and white supremacy, and that the white race is going to be extinct if we don't address it. I don't agree with what he calls peaceful ethnic cleansing, which basically, what he talks about here is a form of governed eugenics, which is basically you de-incentivize, you dismantle the welfare state effectively, and by doing so, the people who have children, which he claims are more likely to be people of color, by de-incentivizing that, they will have less of them, and eventually we'll get back to what he considers to be a racial balance. I don't care about any of that shit. I think that's garbage. I think that's nonsense. I think it's predicated on pseudoscience, and I think it's the exact kind of chat that a diet Nazi would actually say. Now, maybe I haven't seen enough of Spencer's works or doctrine before making that judgment, but I've got to say what I've seen. What I've seen repulsives me, and I'd certainly try and engage and understand his ideas. But when you say things like America was until this past generation a white country designed for ourselves and our posterity, it is our creation, it is our inheritance, and it belongs to us. these are echoes of Hitler's speeches, undoubtedly, unequivocally. And I just wish this guy would go away, because this is what's going to make it to the front page of publications like The Atlantic, which I actually like. This is what they're going to talk about. This is how they're going to label all of us. And anybody who wants to be taken seriously in this discourse should disavow the term alt-right, should disavow the teachings, or whatever you want to call them, of Richard Spencer, because he is going to be the poster boy for the alt-right movement, and that's why he's doing this. In the same way Sarkeesian did it for feminists, he's doing it for the alt-right. But, and again, I cannot stress it enough. Next time someone wants to call me a Nazi, certainly play them this clip, because I absolutely do not support his views. Now, this is where it gets interesting. I mean, this is insane, right? So, there's Nazi salutes at the end of that video, okay? And do you want to see it? You can see the picture. I don't want to play the video. I don't want to give that guy any more attention, really, than I already have. So let's just look at this. This was the headline in Salon. The man who did the Nazi salute outside of Richard Spencer's alt-right conference is Jewish, and it's causing problems. Now, obviously, Salon, again, don't like their work as a publication, don't support them as a publication. They publish propaganda, they publish bullshit. But they did find out that this guy, that there was actual Jewish people there doing Nazi salutes and supporting Richard Spencer, which is insane. Right. I remember when somebody held up a flag and it said gays for Trump, and somebody made the quip, that's like trees for deforestation. This is crazy. Because I've interviewed white supremacists. I've talked to white supremacists. They don't think Jewish people are white. They don't see you as part of a subsection of the white race. They see you as part of the dilution of the white race. They are not going to be your friends. So this is incredible to me, that Jewish people would go out and do Nazi salutes. And look at this. This is obviously Tila Tequila, the reality TV star show. She's been on MTV and stuff. And she's doing a Nazi salute. She's doing the Nazi salute. Now, there was this part here, which is interesting and hasn't been picked up by the media. And fair play, I'll give Salon credit here. Good on them for publishing this. Because obviously their entire ideology will be screaming, don't do this. But I guess Israel and Jews have kind of fallen down the oppression Olympics enough for this to be the case. And you can see that there were Jews who were there at that meeting potentially false flagging, as in doing the Nazi salute to make it appear that Nazis were there when they weren't. And I think that's important. The media hasn't really discussed that possibility. Now, look, here's what I will say. I don't think it matters too much, because if you listen to Richard Spencer's rhetoric, I don't think it matters whether people are saluting it or not. If you're applauding it and agreeing with it, you certainly might have a charge to answer that you are a white supremacist. Maybe not a Nazi, but certainly a white supremacist. But you can see here in the report, the guy says, we're Jews, and we're going to see what it's like. They wanted to experience being a Nazi, being a white supremacist. And you can also see as well reports, the Daily Stormer gets talked about a lot. You can see here, I'm not even against throwing up Roman salutes at these conferences, and in fact, I find it hilarious. So you've got Jews going and false flagging it. You've got actual neo-Nazis turning up, and they don't want the Jews to be invited, and they don't think Richard Spencer's hardcore enough for them, but they go along and throw up Nazi salutes to kind of subvert the topic and see if they can get away with it. And it even says here, the last thing we need is the world believing that neo-Nazis are just a bunch, and you can see the slurs he's used there, saying Spencer needs to tighten ship. Now, Mike Cernovich, who's rose to prominence during this election cycle, he's saying these are all false flags, that the Nazis are trying to, take over and make it look like the alt-right's racist. The Jews, some people are saying the Jews are trying to come in and make the alt-right look like. This is a fucking mess. This is an absolute fucking mess. But here's what I will say, like, seriously, Richard Spencer, no thanks. Not part of anything I believe or subscribe to. Shouldn't be part of anything you believe or subscribe to. If you certainly believe in the things he's saying, you've got to make an incredible case. So let's just scroll down here. Let's talk about the Tila Tequila stuff, because I don't know if you guys were aware of this, but Tila Tequila being a Nazi certainly isn't a surprise. She tweeted that out, that photo. This wasn't a photo caught by, this wasn't someone catching her out while she was at a night out, or a friend who's been bought by the media. This is just her doing it, actually posing for photos, and then she tweeted it out herself. Who would do such a thing? Well, Twitter banned her immediately, of course. You can see here in this report on Yahoo Celebrity. Just straight away suspended her. And the restaurant that housed all of this obviously came out and apologized. Probably didn't know what was going on. And I imagine it's going to be harder for Richard Spencer to get speaking engagements as a result of all of this furor. But actually tweeted out, her own... I'll wait for a mod to get in and ban that guy, if you would be so kind, or shall I have to do it myself? Yeah, good job. Right, okay. So yeah, so she tweeted this out herself. Now she is unabashedly a white supremacist, which is insane because she wouldn't qualify as white in Hitler's world. But she has an incredible inflammatory past. Look at this. She actually said this to Ben Shapiro, formerly of Breitbart. This is obviously reported on his website, The Daily Wire, but this is a tweet she actually did say. She said that Ben Shapiro, my counsel believes you should be gassed and sent back to Israel, but I'm the bigger man and I won't hurt you. So she literally said that to Ben Shapiro, and even said she would gladly sacrifice her own life for the destruction of all Jews. So, and you can see that's the tweet there. There are only two things in this world for which I would gladly sacrifice my own life: the destruction of all Jews and the preservation of the white race. So, it's interesting, isn't it, really, that this hasn't blown up. We got an instance of a genuine white supremacist here, by the way. This is a genuine white supremacist. This is someone genuinely spewing Nazi rhetoric within the celebrity space. This should be a big deal, shouldn't it? Because this is the type of quote that gets attributed to Stephen Bannon, for example, even though there's no evidence whatsoever to suggest he's an anti-Semite. But this should be, I think, a much bigger story. Sure, she might not be as important as someone who advises the president, but this shows there is this element out there. And her doing a Nazi salute shouldn't surprise anybody. And I'm just amazed that really she hasn't been held accountable for that in a much bigger way. And I got to say as well, this is if you're a journalist and you want to talk about the rise of racists and the rise of people that do support white supremacy and supposedly are Trump supporters and all of that nonsense, these are the people you need to look at. Put Richard Spencer under the microscope. Most person will say we don't agree with anything he's saying, and any celebrity that gravitates towards that cause, they're suspect. And yeah, I suppose you're right. It is very hard to hold her accountable because she's fucking crazy. So yeah, I don't even know what she does these days. But I just thought it would have been in the news cycle a little bit more. You know what I mean? Anyway, a few more little bits before we go. I just added these right at the end, so apologies if the transitions aren't quite as smooth. This was nonsense. Absolute nonsense. I saw this go out today. Didn't really understand, what this was about. Variety. Oh, God, skip the ad, please. Thank you. Okay. A letter to the TV industry. Keep fighting the good fight. The central premise of this article is that because Donald Trump is president-elect, it's going to make it more difficult to make TV shows. You know how we talked about on the show that ever since Donald Trump got in, everyone's trying to use this Donald Trump issue, this non-issue, I should say, to basically draw attention to whatever the fuck they're doing. And we had it with sports. What will Donald Trump do to sports? How will it affect the bid for the World Cup in 2026? He won't even be president by then, so it won't matter. He might not even be alive by then, right? So who fucking knows, right? It's just nonsense. It's just getting fear-mongering. Click on our page. Let's talk about Trump. We're one of you. We're virtue signaling. But you can see here, it's difficult to imagine writing scripts, making production schedules, and honing pitches in this environment, but please don't stop now. We need the best of what the TV industry has been producing of late. We need it more than ever. And it just goes on and on and on. Talking about, the old son is 14, right? And I need my woke and super liberal and educated child to be able to still see things, like these shows, to teach him about America and what America's about. It's just the usual shit. It's just a regurgitated nonsense about how it's going to be harder to make TV because obviously, everyone's going to be so aghast at the existence of Trump and they want you to stop. The forces of exclusion and racism want to stop the process of writing. Nonsense. Absolute nonsense. Garbage. This is a story as well I wanted to debate. What kind of debate? Just to bring it up to you. Okay? So, this is interesting. Because I support the right to private business to make private business decisions, obviously. But this is the Breitbart news getting blocked by the ad exchange. So, and thanks for the sub, obviously. All the people who subbed during the course of the broadcast. And thank you very much for any donations. We didn't have the thing running, but we're going to get that up and running for the next show once I've got a bit comfortable with button pressing and everything else. So, Breitbart news site blocked by ad exchange. And what this is, there is one of the leading ad exchanges. This isn't a small one. This is AppNexus. And AppNexus basically sells ad space on digital platforms. And they've now withdrawn the right of Breitbart to show ads. Now, obviously, we all know in this day and age, in the digital age, click-through ads don't make you as much money as they used to. It ain't what it used to be. But it certainly is a revenue stream. And AppNexus have decided to withdraw their right to have ads on Breitbart because they say it has broken its code of conduct on hate speech and incitement to violence. Now, these are huge charges. These are very big charges. And ones that I think must absolutely be qualified. If you're going to accuse somebody of hate speech or inciting violence, you must have specific examples. If you do not have specific examples, then something is very, very wrong indeed. Because it should be self-evident. And you can see, well, here we are. When asked to give examples, it did not. It did not give examples. It refused to give examples. And then a spokesperson said, a human audit of Breitbart had flagged several articles that had caused it concern because of the language they had featured. So we get back to language policing. Now, understand that hate speech and incitement to violence, they're very clear. An incitement to violence would be me saying, hey guys, we're going to attack this group of people over here, let's do it, we need to do it. Or me saying, I'm not going to do it, but you guys absolutely should, because they're bad, they're coming for you. Right? That's an incitement to violence. Hate speech is obviously saying these people are inferior, they don't deserve the same rights as us, they're not the same people as us, they deserve to be discriminated against. That's hate speech. And the two can be very closely and sometimes inextricably linked. Now, when asked to give an example, they can't. And they say here, we use a number of third-party standards to determine what is and isn't hate speech. And if we detect a pattern of speech that could incite violence or discrimination against a minority group, we determine that to be non-compliant and we simply won't serve ads against it. I'm not going to put the examples out there because I'm not going to engage in a tit-for-tat on what is compliant. So there you go. Now, at what point? I don't understand how you win with the left. I don't understand how you win this debate. Because people call Donald Trump a white supremacist with no evidence he's a white supremacist. People call Milo Yiannopoulos a white supremacist with no evidence he's a white supremacist. I've given you an example of a real white supremacist. Richard Spencer is a white supremacist. Did happen. Is a white supremacist. Rest of the people, not so much. You will not find an example of them being racist anywhere. And if you could, that's it. You win the argument. That's the smoking gun you all need. Doesn't exist. Literally doesn't exist. But apparently, if Donald Trump sues a journalist or threatened to sue a journalist for making these smears against his name, Donald Trump's against free speech. Fuck him. He's just trying to silence us. Same with Milo Yiannopoulos. I've said to Milo, when are you going to sue these people? Because they are shitting all over you. Even the story about how he led harassment against Leslie Jones, it's a lie. There's no factual basis to this whatsoever. He had an argument with Leslie Jones. Is he responsible for the people who hacked her phone? Absolutely not. And again, let's be clear. That's a disgusting thing to do to anybody. But Milo isn't responsible. Milo didn't lead anybody. He didn't incite anything. But he got banned. And everybody that's ever reported on Milo Yiannopoulos now, white supremacist, misogynist, you know? It's crazy. So how do you defend your name? You can't. You're not allowed to. And then it gets even worse. Because as we're seeing here, I won't even give you examples because I'm not going to engage in a tit for tat on what is compliant. I just had this today on Twitter. Person says Richard Lewis shouldn't have won that journalist award because he's a bad person. He doesn't respect the humanity of other people. I said, can you give me an example of where I don't respect this humanity? They typed lol. I said, is that a no then? And they said, this is victory. I've already won. And then other people started to challenge it, saying, well, you've got to kind of give an example, right? And that person said, no, I don't need to. I won't do it. So now we're trying to create a culture. We are trying to create a culture where you do not even need to make assertions with evidence. You can say Breitbart is all for racism, all for hate speech, all for bigotry, and incites violence. You can just openly say that and never have to qualify it. And here's the thing. AppNexus absolutely can take their business wherever they want. They can serve ads to whoever they want. That's their right as an independent company, and God forbid the government ever got involved and prevented them doing that, because that is a slippery slope in and of itself. But let's be clear here. This is a big public charge. This will be reported by newspapers, by press. You have an ethical responsibility to verify this. You have an ethical responsibility to back this up. By simply saying, I'm not going to put the examples out there because I'm not going to engage in tit-for-tat. In that case, you should just say, we have made a personal business decision to no longer work with Breitbart, and leave it there. What you have done is smear them and lie about them. And that's unacceptable. Whether you think it's true or not, proof, evidence. This is what separates us. This is what separates us. This is the standard we must maintain. Throughout all of the insanity, we've got to maintain the standard that evidence has to be what we make our decisions on. Evidence. Actual evidence. Not feelings. Not gut feelings. Not hunches. Not opinions. Evidence. If somebody can link me a Breitbart article that absolutely incites hate, I'll condemn it. If you can find me an article that incites violence, I'll condemn it. Obviously, because I don't stand for those things, even though I used to work there. But again, I don't see that. I haven't seen that. I don't think Milo telling triggered feminists to log off the internet to avoid being triggered, I don't consider that misogynistic. He's not saying women shouldn't have a right to use the internet. He's saying if you can't use the internet like an adult, don't use the internet. The two are not the same. But people keep spinning the lie in the echo chamber. And I'm a victim of those lies. I get it all the time. I still have to hear daily about how I choked a guy. Didn't. Drove someone to suicide. Didn't. Told people to kill themselves. Didn't. Bragged about fucking groupies. Didn't. I have to listen to that every day. Those have become the facts because I've been deplatformed and can't defend myself within the echo chamber where the lie is fostered. How is that fair? You have to qualify everything you say. There must be evidence to it. I like to think I do a pretty good job. There might be the odd slip. I let my opinions slip in. I'm only human. And when it does, I would absolutely expect to be castigated and told, can you prove it? And if that was the case, I would sit down, I would look at the evidence, and I would go, yeah, okay, maybe you're right. Maybe that was hyperbole on my part. I withdraw that statement. Because that is the standard of discourse that we must maintain. If we let that slip, if we enter into a world now where you can assert something without evidence against somebody and have it enter the public record and simply say, I don't have to provide any evidence. What does that mean? Where does that lead? Are we going to start doing that in courts? Is that going to become the judicial standard? Where does it end? We've got to maintain a level of intellectual standardization to discourse, to debate. So, obviously, Breitbart put out a statement saying it always and continues to condemn racism and bigotry in any form. And again, I'm pretty sure it's done reports on racism. It's not all this, oh, the white man's got it bad. Yes, they pick up those stories because that is what they're doing. They're trying to be the counter to the mainstream narrative. They try and pick up outlying stories. That's what they do. But equally, they have been, they've picked up stories about anti-Semitism. Look on the front page. They've reported about, Jewish students being triggered by swastikas on campus, seeing swastikas, being subject to anti-Semitic abuse. Why would an anti-Semitic publication highlight those things? The logic isn't there. And very weird. And you can just see they go on again, starts talking about the alt-right, right? The alt-right. It's back, the boogeyman. And you can see they pick out 3 headlines. Now, keep in mind, AppNexus has said that it has repeatedly done this. It detects a pattern. A pattern is something that has to recur. Look at the level of evidence that BBC was able to come out to even dig and substantiate what AppNexus might be saying. This headline includes, the solution to online harassment is simple. Women should log off. Okay? Now, that's a provocative headline designed to get you to click. Guess who wrote that? It's Milo, right? It's a provocative headline designed to get you to click on it. So you do, and then when you go in, you realize the argument is nowhere near that cut and dry. The left does that all the time. The Huffington Post does that all the time. Why Trump is evil. Find out inside, and you go in. It's like he's not really evil. Yeah. Or it's J.K. Rowling says he's worse than Voldemort. And you're like, oh, okay, right, cool. Hoist it high and proud. The Confederate flag proclaims a glorious heritage. Now, I don't remember that article. I can't say I've read it, so I won't pass comment on it. Again, but I imagine it's inflammatory to go against the contrary, to take a contrarian stance against people who are saying the Confederate flag should be banned and should be erased from history, where even to the point where you can't play a computer game with a Confederate flag in it. Obviously, they're taking a contrary stance. That's the point. Data. Young Muslims in the West are a ticking time bomb, increasingly sympathetic with radical terror. And if I remember rightly, that's about the Pew reports that showed that actually people that are considered moderate Muslims still believe in some things that aren't necessarily compatible with Western civilization and culture. Their attitudes towards gays, their attitudes towards extramarital sex. And again, yes, it's a spectacular headline. It's clickbait, whatever you want to call it. But that is not necessarily inciting hate, especially when it's substantiated with independent research from Pew. And yes, there was a terrible headline that came out using the words renegade Jew. I don't particularly like that. I did feel that was a bit strange and not in keeping with the publication. It was a personal issue, which never made it to should never have seen the light of day. It was really, really poor. But again, if this is the weight, if this is the volume, then I don't know what to tell you. It can't be as bad as what people are saying. And you can see again now people are going against Stephen Bannon, ban him, and that's where it goes. So final story of the day, and then I'm going to turn off the stream and probably kick myself for not doing a local recording and try and rip the VOD off Twitch. But I know you guys. I know what you like. You guys like catchphrases, right? You guys like catchphrase comedy. You like Little Britain, yeah, with and yeah, I know. You like the Fast Show with me, with my reputation. Oh, it's brilliant, right? You like catchphrase comedy. Catchphrase comedy, something I always swore I'd never do. So with that in mind, let's go into the final segment. Didn't happen. Massive didn't happen coming in, guys. You're going to love this didn't happen. Obviously, we all love it didn't happen. And indeed, a top keck. Yes, you're right, guys. So, hateful Trump notes allegedly aimed at students were fabricated. It didn't happen. It's another fake hate crime. It's another fake hate crime. They've done it again. They've done it again, guys. It's the left faking crimes against themselves. And yet people are still saying reported incidents are massively up this year. We're up to 400 this year. How many are fake? There's no one questioning this. You can't just keep throwing that statistic around when every fucking day we're finding stories about fake fucking hate crimes. It didn't happen. All right, let's have a look. Hateful notes and emails allegedly sent to North Park University student were fabricated. The school's president said Tuesday in a statement, and the women who claimed they were aimed toward her is no longer enrolled at the school. We are confident there is no further threat of repeated intolerance to any member of our campus community stemming from this recent incident, the university's president, David Parkin, said in a statement. So, the notes, as you can see, back to hell. Something racist here, hashtag Trump. And they wrote it themselves. The individual who wanted to make it look like Trump was happening wrote it and handed it out. And then got triggered by it and complained about it. The whole thing, complete gibberish. Complete bullshit. And what's interesting about the way this article goes on is, right, even though it acknowledges that first of all, again, of course, the Chicago police, they don't find any report about it. The interesting thing about this is the way they end the report, right? So keep in mind, that didn't happen. This didn't happen, right? This, fabricated, fake. And you can see here, look how they end it. So the Southern Poverty Law Center, okay, which we know to be an ideological-based association. They're not neutral. They've openly come out and, targeted a lot of people. You see, the Southern Poverty Law Center said there were 701 hateful incidents of harassment reported around the country in the week since the presidential election. I mean, what is the standard for a report here? Because it's not police reports. Because the number is around about 400 countrywide, I think, for the year of recognized hate incidents. So it says, no, not all reports were verified. Yeah, of course they weren't. I'd probably say, an overwhelming number weren't verified because, what is the standard of report here? Because if it's what Sean King's been tweeting out, man on Facebook says, I was at a petrol station and a man came out and said, I'm going to kill you because you're black and I hate blacks and all blacks should die. Go Trump, go Trump. And then he waved a gun at me and then he got his dick out and he pissed on my shoes and said, ha ha ha, I can piss on your shoes now because Trump is elected. This is day one of Trump's America, right? So if you see a Facebook post like that, right? First of all, the question goes, if that happens, you've been the victim of a crime, you report it. There's no police report. Second of all, even if you don't report it, we live in a day and age where everyone is carrying a camera. Nobody's filmed it. Okay, right, fine. So maybe there was no one there. Maybe you're alone. It happened at a petrol station. So they have CCTV. So why don't you go and cooperate with the gas station owner and ask if the CCTV was on? Why aren't the newspapers coming out and getting this CCTV? That's their job. You can pay some clerk, very small amount of money because they've got, low wages to just get that tape. And let's publish it and let's get some real hate crimes out there. Let's see these real hate crimes that are really happening. No, you can't because they didn't happen. This is a bunch of people wanting to live out this hero fantasy, the fantasy of being oppressed, which a lot of people share, a lot of people have, and it's nonsense. So when you say there's been 700 hateful incidents reported to you, if someone's sending you a Facebook post that they wrote and saying, honest God, bleeding blimey, governor, this definitely happened. If you are going to put that number out without any scrutiny whatsoever, you are irresponsible. You are race baiting and you are adding to this climate of fear and distrust and actual hate. Because if someone retaliates to this, right, irresponsible rhetoric, then obviously you're partially responsible. You have got to be way more demanding of the standards of evidence. About 65% of the incidents were from the first 3 days following the election, almost as if everyone was knowing they were going to get the most attention then, right? And ever since, been a steady drop-off since, yeah, because now we're starting to find nobody reported it to the police, and it didn't fucking happen. Wah, 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 it didn't happen, right? But then, look, so it says there, right, again, it just asserts that as fact, right? And then Trump has called for people to stop such displays. Well, yeah, he did. But can I just call for something now, please? I may not be as important as Donald Trump. When is someone going to call and say, hey, leftists, right? Because I've heard a lot of people go, oh, can the right just stop beating up black people and threatening them with guns and being right? When is someone on the left going to say, can we all stop faking hate crimes, please? Can we stop wasting police time? Wasting police resources on investigations into fictitious crimes. When is someone going to say that? Can we stop creating a climate of fear for people who might believe that you're not lying? Genuine people with genuine concerns who are worried about going out in public and being attacked because you've told them that it happened to you. When is someone going to come out and say that's got to stop happening? Because I haven't heard that yet. And until I do hear it, then obviously, fuck it. Everyone's going to treat this with the right air of cynicism. Remember, the evidentiary standard has got to be high. Somebody saying, this happened to me, listen and believe, fuck you. No, I can't. You must show me. There must be evidence. There's got to be evidence. If you're not even willing to go to an enforcement agency like the police who can investigate this and have better resources than you to do so, if you are not willing to do that, then I have got to question whether or not it happened. Because if there is a crime, you have a civic responsibility to report it for the good of our society. When you go on Facebook, that's not reporting it. And then eventually, if it goes viral, the police have to investigate it. And they're investigating it with less time, less access to the crime scene, etc., etc. This is all bad. This is not good. You are not being a good citizen. So someone needs to come out and just say, can we stop faking this shit, please? If you want your attention, right? If you're a student and you want attention, you've got it. Universities are creches now. You can go there. You can sit in a fucking drum circle. You can sit there in a cry-in. You're given colouring books. You get the day off. You don't even have to go to lectures or exams anymore if you're triggered by Trump. You've got your attention, right? You're paying for that attention. You don't need to fake this shit. When you do that, you are harming the fabric of society. And it should be treated seriously. Anybody caught faking a hate crime should be penalized to the fullest extent of the law. Because it is irresponsible and fucking reckless. Right. And there we have it. We end on a didn't happen, but a serious didn't happen, but didn't happen. So, pretty pleased with the way this went, actually. I figured out how to use broadcasting equipment. And Sam didn't give me any lessons whatsoever. So, just to wrap up the show, I'm going to go back to work and crack on with doing my things. Obviously, listen, I don't say this enough. I think it's important I say this now more than ever because I'm starting to get worried. Starting to get worried about being deplatformed. It keeps me up at night. They're going to take my Twitter away. They're going to take my fucking YouTube away. They're going to take my Twitch away. I don't know. But people are coming at me. And coming at me for having these radical opinions of mine. And obviously, I'm in a strange position because I don't do it anonymously. This is my face. This is who I am. So obviously, you guys, I appreciate the support. And when I say support, I don't mean you click on the video, you listen to it. Obviously, that's great, right? But I mean actual, genuine support. I focus a lot on the bad. I know I get criticized for that a lot. I mean, I think that's human nature, but okay, I'm human and perhaps a flawed human. But, I do have a tendency, like one guy tweets something at me, fucking, I'll reply to him, and then I might get 5 people saying, hey, I love your videos. You get me through my shifts at work. I love listening to your long form podcasts. I think what you do is great. Thank you for being, there and helping me in my life. Maybe I don't reply to that guy, because I'm already locked into some Twitter war with some guy who's trying to take away my livelihood or whatever. And I should do that less, I know. But I can't promise I will. I'll try. I'm mindful of it. But while I'm conscious of the point, I want to say that, obviously, I don't do this for money. I don't make money off this. I know a lot of you guys offer me money. I'm telling you, keep it. Definitely keep it. You don't need to pay me to say these things, and I don't do it for money. But I appreciate the offer, obviously. And if ever it goes the way it might, I know you guys will be there to fucking bail me out and allow me to maintain my independence. So I do dearly love each and every one of you people. And, it means a lot to me. It means a lot to me. Your encouragement gets me through difficult times. So don't think it doesn't. And thanks to anyone who takes the time out of their day to say something good, to support me, to perhaps correct some false perceptions about me. It is well appreciated. Anyway, that was the Richard Lewis Without Sam show. He did it. He pressed the buttons. Now I just got to figure out how to get the VOD off fucking Twitch, put it in the YouTube channel. And if you're watching this on YouTube, I did that too. So I think I deserve a fucking pay rise. Thanks a lot for tuning in. I will see you next time.